Hey guys, today in this video we're going to be looking at this pure sine wave inverter by Ampeak. So this is the inverter here itself. This is going to convert DC power to AC power. This is meant for 12 volt batteries. As you can see here, input 11 volts to 15 volts DC. And then this is going to convert it about 120 volts, which is perfect for the North American market because most of our household items can run in a range of, let's say, 110 volts up to 125, maybe 130 volts. As you can see here, we have two 15 amp outputs and we have a 20 amp output. Here we also have a cigarette lighter, as well as two 3.1 amp USB outputs. We also have a port here for a remote on-off switch, and we have the inverter on-off itself. I actually have the remote switch here, so let's take a look at that. So this here is the remote switch. All this is a on-off switch. What this is going to allow you to do is you can mount this somewhere out of the way in your cargo hold or somewhere far away where you're not going to hear the fans. And then you can use this to run into your cabin, and then you can turn off your inverter on the go. Because if you don't know already, these inverters have a standby consumption if they're left on. So you're going to be using maybe, let's say, 30 watts of power for no reason when you're not home. So this switch here allows you to shut this inverter off while you're not using it. We will test the standby consumption of this once we get it hooked up. Back here you can see we have the fans for cooling, and we have the terminal connections here. And they actually have a really neat system for connecting your battery. Once you have your lug on, you put this cover on, and then you put this little plastic nut here over the screw here, and then your lug is going to come out over here, which is going to allow it to be protected from any kind of short circuiting or anything like that. And on the front of the unit we have some indicators of what it can do, as well as we have a screen. So that's going to be very interesting to see what the screen shows. Now in the box with the switch, you just get the remote switch with it almost looks like a phone jack style cord. That might be a separate buy, I'll have to check the listing. But I believe you can buy the inverter with it. And then they give you a wrench. So this is a 14mm wrench, and that is going to be to get the battery cable tightened on and off. We have the covers for the battery terminals, as well as we have a manual. And we can see on the manual here, it shows us what is displayed on the screen. So we have our input voltage of the battery. We have an internal temperature of the actual inverter, the wattage being used, the output voltage, output amperage, and the hertz. So in North America, we're going to be at 60 hertz. And we just have some other information. So 11 to 15 volts for our input voltage for the battery, our low voltage, our DC fusing, so we have 10*40 amp. I'm not sure what that's for, if that's 10 fuses at 40 amps, I don't know. I don't see any fuses on the exterior of the device. We have 2000 watts, 2200 watts for overload power. Our surge is 4000 watts and different troubleshooting. So that's the manual here. And then they also include a pair of 20mm wires. Now I'm not sure why none of the inverter manufacturers out there can get this part of the system correct. But basically whenever they give you these cables, you can just throw them out. They're not going to be capable of handling the amount of amps that you need for 2000 watts continuous. I don't know why none of the inverter manufacturers can ever get this right, but I have yet to see this done right. So basically if we break down the math here, so we have 20mm squared wire, which is roughly the equivalent of a 5-gauge wire. So a 5-gauge wire can only handle about 70 amps of discharge. Now I'm going to put this graph on the screen. This is from Battleborn. They're a very great battery company, but they're still very expensive. But they do have a lot of great information. I actually encourage you all to go on their website. They have a lot of information on lithium iron phosphate that you guys can learn from. So 20mm squared is the equivalent of 5-gauge, which is the equivalent of 70 amps. Now, I'm going to be using lithium iron phosphate for this test. A 12 volt lithium iron phosphate on the lower end of the discharge, going to be right around 11 volts. So we're going to use the 11 volts as our minimum voltage. So if we take 2000 and then divide it by 11, we're going to get somewhere in the area of 182 amps. So we need to be able to supply 182 amps to these terminals. We are going to need, if we look back at this chart from Battleborn, we're going to need roughly about a 2-aught cable. A 5-gauge cable comparative to a 2-aught cable, that's quite a difference. So for me personally, if I was wiring this unit up for continuous use and I wanted to continually use 2000 watts, I would hook it up with a 2-aught wire, and then I would use a 200 amp fuse. So with a 2-aught wire and a 200 amp fuse, then you are protected. So there's a lot of kind of misleading information out there. So this unit itself will protect itself, but it will not protect the wire. The reason why you fuse your system is to protect the wire. If I put a 200 amp fuse on this wire and then run it, this is going to get piping hot. It could even catch fire, and it could burn up your whole entire rig, whatever you have this in, your home, your rig, whatever. So basically what I would do is I would fuse it to protect the gauge of this wire. If I had a 2-aught wire, I would be using a 200 amp fuse, and that way that 2-aught wire won't overheat and catch fire. If I was using this 5-gauge wire that can handle 70 amps, I would use, let's say, because I'd have to go to a denomination that a fuse will work, so I would use, let's say, a 60 amp, and I would limit myself to 60 amps if I was using this wire. Okay, so now the largest wire I could find is number 2 wire, which, what will number 2 wire get me? So 2-gauge wire, I can do about 120 amps of discharge. So we're going to take our 120 amps and times that by 11. So I can do 1,320 watts of discharge, which is going to be enough to test out this inverter to see how well it performs. I'm not going to be doing a high discharge on this to test, but let's hook it up and we'll see what we can do. So another thing that you're going to need to know, not only with the cable sizing, but if you can remember from the math, we're going to be doing just under 200 amps of discharge. So you are going to need a battery that is capable of handling 200 amps of discharge. So this is a 12 volt battery, is a 200 amp hour battery, and the BMS in here will allow me to do 200 amps of discharge. So 200 amps of discharge, I can do my 2000 watts, but I'm only going to be discharging up to 130-ish amps because of my cable sizing. I might push it a little bit just for quick testing, but again, I would use the appropriate cable sizing for the application. Okay, so now on here we have a nut, a washer, and a split washer. So you're always going to want to have your lug pressed directly up against this metal here. So I'm going to do my washer, my split washer, and then my nut, and the supplied box wrench with the kit. Okay, and now I want to put on the protective cap. So that should, oh, my lug is a little bit larger. Okay, I have a suspicion that these might not work if you're going to be using a 2-aught lug on this. I'm only using a 2-gauge and I already have to trim this here. Okay, there we go. Okay, I have my protective cap on. So now I'm going to run the negative. Okay, now I'm going to have to, you can see here where this little hump is, I need to make this a little bit wider to fit the lug. This is not a big deal. Just nip it with some side cutters. Now if I had some heat shrink on this lug properly, then it would cover, but for now it's just testing. So now to protect the inverter, I'm going to be using a capacitor. This is going to restrict the amount of current that can flow because lithium iron phosphate has a very low resistance value. So as soon as I make this connection, there's going to be a surge of power into the capacitors in here. And what this is going to do is it could blow the capacitors in here. So the way I'm going to do that is connect just hold that on here and one-handed. And the reason why you want to do this one-handed is because if you ever size up to, let's say, a 48 volt system, you want to get in the habit of only making your connections. See, I'm holding on to the insulation of the wire. You always want to make your connections one-handed, especially once you move up to a 48 volt system. Not so much a 12 volt, but definitely a 48 volt. You want to do it one-handed, and that way you can't have a current cross your heart and hope to die. Let's turn this on. Okay, let's have a look at what that screen looks like. Hope this isn't too shaky. I gotta hold the camera, but you can see our voltage of the battery is 13 volts, 81 degrees Fahrenheit. And we have a battery meter here, but this is going to be going off of voltage. So unless you're using lead acid, I would pay little to no attention to that. We have our output, which is 90 volts. That's pretty low. I hope that jumps up once I start using this. 0 amps and 60 hertz. So let's plug something into it. Now we're down to 88 volts. 90 volts. Okay, let's plug in something. Plug this fan in. Ooh, that's not very good. Okay, we're gonna plug this fan. So you can hear that, and you can see the fan is turning. Now let's plug this fan into here. Now it's saying 88 watts for some reason. Or sorry, 88 volts AC. So now you can see the fan's not spinning. Well, it's spinning, but very slow, and you can hear the motors having an issue. And we're down to 65 volts. Yeah, you can see there, 65 volts output. That's not good. I'm gonna plug something else in and see what happens. Okay, this is my test rig. So these are incandescent light bulbs. This is what I use to discharge my batteries most of the time in my testings. Okay, that's the lights are on, but I'm still showing output of 62 volts. Different outlet. Okay, that is really strange. 88 volts. Let me grab a meter. Okay, I'm going to be checking the pure sine wave. Oh, that's actually kind of a dirty pure sine wave. So you can see at the top end and the bottom end it's a flat line. So we're actually not getting a pure sine wave out of here either. Huh. Let me try turning it off. Turning it on. No, we still have an output voltage of 70. Oh, gone up to 88 watts. Or keep saying watts, 88 volts. So we're at 88 volts. 90 volts on the display. And I have 97.7. Oh, and it... Okay, we're bouncing all over the place here. Okay, now 97.3 volts. We're at 60 hertz, so we are... Oh, now we're at 100. Okay, I'm reading 100 volts. Our pure sine wave still looks dirty. We have a flat bottom and a flat top. So as you can see here, that should be a consistent hump, and we're flat at the top and flat at the bottom, and we're back down to 94.3 volts. You know what? I'm not even going to continue testing this. We are not able to get even 110 volts AC. Unfortunately, this is a fail on this Ampeak pure sine wave inverter. It's not a pure sine wave. You can see at the top and bottom end it's a flat curve. We are not getting even 110. Typically 110 volts is kind of what we are getting normally on most inverters, but this is only getting like 90 volts. Yeah, let's try a different power setting. No. Okay, so as you can see over here, I have this pure sine wave inverter. I believe it's by XYZ or WXYZ. I'll put the link in the description below. But these are basically rebranded reliable inverters. They're awesome, they're at a great price point, and they work. So I have this connected to my battery bank back here. Right now it's showing 123 volts AC. And if I plug a fan into it, now the fan is running appropriately. Whereas on the Ampeak inverter, it's not running. So with that being said, you know what? Let's check the pure sine wave as well. See, now you can see here at the hump at the top and the hump at the bottom. So you can see the up and the down. It's a nice hump. And we have 123.5 volts. So unfortunately, this inverter for me is a fail. Now I know Brad over on his channel, he's had better success with this inverter, so maybe check out his review. I might have just got a one-off crap unit, but for me it's a fail because I can't even get close to 120 volts AC output, which is what you need to run most appliances. Like, you can run lights, but as far as running a refrigerator or fans or anything with a compressor or anything of that nature, I would not use this inverter. So I'm actually going to send this back and hopefully get my money back for it. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.